I think we can all agree with this update, things are starting to get pretty dang spicy. So yesterday we ended up making a video breaking down the intricacies of the most recent animation that came out yesterday. Basically, what's the overlying message that they're trying to get across, sneak peek fashion for this next update, Season 20. I believe we came to some pretty dang reasonable conclusions as to what that big implementation, Hypercharge, is going to be once it is released. But of course, we have a little bit of time before we have a bit more context about that. And since the video that we made yesterday, some new info or more context has come to light to give us a better understanding of what Hypercharge might be like, involving some Supercell feedback or response. Someone from the dev team actually gave us a little bit of clarification here, so a better understanding as we're waiting for more info. So let's get into it. Now, of course, I feel like a broken record at this point as we are getting closer and closer to this Brawl Talk date. We're pretty much so uploading daily here on the channel. So the very next upload on this channel after this one will be tomorrow, going over the most juicy update sneak peek that we get with any update before it comes out. The Brawl Talk thumbnail, as well as the photo posted to social media, is giving us so much context about Season 20 before we get more info. I break all of that down as methodically as I can every single update, so make sure to stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and keep up to date for the other update info that comes out with sneak peeks, Brawl Talk breakdown, and much more fun. Yesterday, we were hit with one of the craziest Easter egg animations here about Bull training and uncovering this hidden power, Hypercharge mechanics. We came to the conclusion that it's more than likely involved with supers here in the game, given the verbiage and just the context of the overall animation, and I think we have even more confirmation from someone from the dev team here to support it, but this goes to show just how significant it's looking like this update is going to be. I think a big game changer implementation to actual gameplay mechanics a lot of the time can bring back a ton of hype into the game. Just a brand new way to approach the gameplay in Brawl Stars is always incredibly fun. Now, there are a few other things that I ended up missing in the form of sneak peeks, believe that or not. Isn't that insane? There's always juicy details in almost every single photo. You think I dive deep into some of these things, getting literally everything, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, but sometimes I miss stuff. It's crazy. So we'll be saving some of those things towards the end of this episode today. A very likely skin remodel coming around here, as well as possibly some hidden Morse code, or at least a lot of the community discussing it. But getting into the main bulk of this episode today, further context of this Hypercharge mechanic to supers. So in the video that we made yesterday, we left off with a little bit more of a broader look or speculation of what Hypercharge might be. Of course, we decided that it makes the most sense that it would be applied to supers here in the game, given the verbiage that they're discussing, or Bull in the animation, charging things. Once he's charged to the max, he's charging up even further. Here inside of Brawl Stars, there's no other real thing that we can just charge up in the game other than our supers, so it's fair to say that a crazy term, much like Hypercharge, and all the verbiage that Bull was saying in the animation relating to charging things, it would apply to supers in Brawl Stars. But then that leaves us with a little bit more of a fun template to speculate upon. What would this look like in the game? Well, what I've been seeing the most from the Brawl Stars community, a very astute Brawl Stars community, I feel like we have been trained to be very vigilant. But because of the efforts, it looks like we're kind of honing in on something that really makes sense from what Bull ended up saying in the animation. Take a listen for yourself.
I'm charging up to the max. And then charging up even more!
It's almost too obvious for us nowadays for a sneak peek or Easter egg like this. After Bull's pretty much so training montage, after he unlocked this new Hypercharge mechanic, after his crazy efforts, right? He finally got that lightning, the purple smoke, he unlocked it for himself. But after he exclaimed to everyone that he has no limits and he unlocks this Hypercharge feature, it then pans to the other individuals in the cast that are also gaining this power, the Hypercharge mechanic, much like Shelly and Colt. Now, while it's showing Shelly and Colt unlocking this new power, Bull explains that he is charging up to the max.
I'm charging up to the max.
Thus implying, given context being supers, he's charging his super to the max. But then he says, and then he's charging up even more.
And then charging up even more.
Now, hey, maybe it's because I was a little bit distracted over the fact that we are getting a sneak peek, I'm assuming, of one of the newest brawlers coming out in this update right here while he's saying this, but it's very fitting that right after he exclaims this, that he is charging up to the max with the context of supers, he's charging his supers to the max, but then he decides that he's charging up even more, surpassing the charge limit on the super and potentially unlocking this new hypercharge thing that he just got done unlocking. So he has some context, he knows how to do it. But the most eye-opening thing, and the thing that I think makes it pretty much so obvious at this point, is right after he explains that he's charging up even more, we get the pan to hypercharge on the screen, as if that's what he's explaining, right? He's charging to the max and then he's charging up even more, hypercharging. So of course, at the time when we first saw the animation, no one really knew right away that it was about supers and things like that. But of course, once we start to think about it a little bit, tinker around with the ideas, much like the video we made yesterday, we proposed it might be about supers. And then when we play around with that idea, things like what Bull is saying towards the end makes it painfully obvious. So a lot of people came to the conclusion, and I've been seeing a ton in the comments of yesterday's video, a pretty similar outlook as to what this mechanic might look like. And I think we are so close that it got some people from the Supercell dev team to respond and somewhat help us to confirm what it might be before we get more context. We've got V, Supercell, the absolute legend. If you guys don't know who V is, he is a very predominant individual when it comes to the development of Brawl Stars. He was actually present during one of the most recent Time to Explain podcasts here, giving us even further info of the development of Brawl Stars, but he's helping us, giving us some context here. As you can see, tweeted out 7 hours ago, now at the point that I'm recording this video, so today, he says, it's nice to finally peel back the curtain a bit. What do you all hope this is? Indicating Hypercharge. And lo and behold, dude, this is pretty much so what I've been seeing verbatim from a lot of the comments of yesterday's video, and an idea that I thought would make a ton of sense if there is like a secondary super from what we're hearing in the animation, this hypercharge mechanic where, for example, you charge up your super to the max, getting your super, but then if you go even further, potentially there's another bar around the super where you have to charge up your super twice to then unlock your hypercharge mechanic, which is extremely exciting. But of course, this was tweeted out showing what the majority of people are thinking this hypercharge mechanic might be, and V responds saying, amazing how consistent the guesses have been, maybe because of what was said in the video. Haven't seen the right guess yet. So V explaining that this isn't one for one what it's going to be, but he is enjoying the consistency of what people are saying. Basically, I mean, come on, when you're thinking of like something like a secondary super hypercharge, what would your mind go to? We only know the super mechanic to charge up your super, unlocking your super. So if you're charging up even more, you would think that you would just charge it up again, right? So as V explained, the guess is not right yet. So I'm thinking it's going to be somewhat similar to what Venom is saying with this visual here. Maybe just a tiny bit different. For example, possibly the hypercharge mechanic might be easier to charge up than a super, not just charging up a traditional super again and then you have this secondary super. Maybe it's harder to charge up your hypercharge mechanic. We really don't know the intricacies of something like this, but I truly think we're kind of on the right track if we're looking at something like this. But at the very least, if we needed further confirmation of some of our hypotheses about hypercharging, at least we know that it has to be related to the super, and we're kind of on the right track if it's getting some response from V Supercell. Of course, I would love to hear what you guys are thinking about this hypercharge mechanic now that we've gotten about a day to wrestle with this interesting concept here. I'm super excited for maybe more context tomorrow with the Easter eggs, but let's be honest, a Brawl Talk thumbnail as well as a Easter egg photo might be kind of difficult to pull away crazy context about hypercharge mechanics. A lot of the time we just get like bits and pieces about new skins, we get an idea of what the season 20 theme is going to be like, plus maybe some ideas of what one or two brawlers could be from the Easter egg photos and the thumbnail silhouettes. So I got a feeling we're gonna have to wait for the actual Brawl Talk itself for the Hypercharge mechanic to super. So make sure to let me know. I would love to hear some of your thoughts and speculations. But to wrap up this video here today, I'd like to go over a few other things that we've kind of missed or just didn't touch on leading into this update right before we get all these crazy update sneak peeks tomorrow. The very first one is with a photo that was released 4 days ago now at the point that I'm recording this video, discussing a little bit further about Payload and what we think about it. But in this photo here of Payload, we see something really significant. So it's taking place on the pirate ship here, so the ship that Tick, Daryl, as well as Penny have and, you know, are duking it out on. But given that fact, if we look right behind Daryl here, we can see a familiar element of a skin. Penny's Santa Helper Penny skin, I believe that's what it's called, the Christmas skin that Penny has. It is actually the very last skin that doesn't have a redesign or a remodel to it since her actual redesign of her character itself. So I think it's pretty dang obvious at this point that this skin is going to be getting a remodel here during season 20 because of this fun element in the photo. It really goes to show that, dude, the Brawl Stars dev team is always trying to give us some interesting things, Easter eggs, juicy things to discuss and think about in any photo, man. But then the final thing I wanted to get around to is at the very end of the animation here, we are hit with a Morse code. Now, I want to make sure you guys know that the Morse code, I'm putting those in quotation marks. I really don't think it is Morse code. I think a lot of the time whenever we see like flickering lights or something resembling Morse code as like Brawl Stars detectives or theory crafters, speculators, we always think it's Morse code. And honestly, I think the dev team uses that to their advantage a lot of the time, always putting things out there like that to basically freak us out. Hey, it's Morse code. And I don't blame any of you guys about thinking things are Morse code and stuff like that, seeing that pretty much so the biggest Easter egg or juicy sneak peek that we got to kick off developments with Star Park was Morse code within Tar's Bazaar, giving us WKBRL in the Morse code. So Morse code has definitely had a huge hand in helping us find certain important things when it comes to lore here in the game, but I don't think we are seeing it here. Honestly, I think we've only come across like 3 different examples in the history of Brawl Stars where Morse code was somewhat significant. So I don't think the flashy lights mean anything significant here. I think we're getting plenty of juicy sneak peeks and Easter eggs to discuss rather than trying to go even deeper with Morse code on top of that. But yeah, that's just about all I got for you here in this episode today. I would love to hear what you guys are thinking about what is being discussed in the community right now about the Hypercharge super mechanic. I think we're kind of on the right track, but we still have a bit of gray area to try to piece together. I'm assuming we'll have to wait for the actual Brawl Talk itself to be fully explained. But yeah, hope you guys are all excited for tomorrow. It should be a good time. Make sure to stay tuned for the breakdown that we have for those interesting Easter eggs that come out tomorrow. I'll do my absolute best to break it down as best as I can. But yeah, have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day, everyone. Keep having fun with Brawl Stars, and we'll see you all in the next one. Adios and take care.